What's going on, everybody? ChromeOnRust here. We're going to be talking about a 100% standalone barbarian build. You don't need to use unity rings. You don't need insane healing from a Templar. You don't have to run all diamonds in the sockets of your gear. You do not need a monk buff. All those things that some players are relying on. The type of Barb build that I wanted was 100% standalone, and I was pretty much telling myself before I ever came out with a Torment 6 Barb build, that's what my first one was going to be, because to me, using Unity Rings to farm in Torment 6, while yes, it is the most efficient way to play, if that is the only way you can play though, that's just no fun to me. I don't want to feel like I farm in Torment 6 by myself, but I need to farm in Torment 3 or 4 because I can't use a Unity Ring while I'm farming with friends. So this build, just to jump right in here, cut the ramble, it's going to be a fire barbarian build. It's going to be for the Might of the Earth set. Might of the Earth is going to be the top-notch way for your barbarian to get damage. I haven't tested anything else. I'm not saying it's not out there, but that is 100% from what I've seen, the best way to get damage for your barbarian is going to be using the Might of the Earth set. The problem with it is though, you're always leaping into the fray, and well, you need high amounts of damage mitigation or high amounts of healing to keep you alive in Torment 6. So that's what I want to share with you. We're going to be talking about skill, gear, Paragon points, and everything else that should hopefully lead you in the proper direction on making your own or using this Torment 6 Barbarian build. Because I want to throw out there, like, the build that I was using last week is not the build that I was using the week before that, and it's not the build that I was using the week before that, and it is not the build that I am using currently. I am constantly swapping out gear, I am constantly swapping out skills, but this one is really solid and I'm really comfortable to share it with everyone. So I hope you do enjoy, and let's get into it. So I do want to throw out there, because I do not know that these are the 100% optimal pieces of gear that you're going to want for endgame farming. I do know that they're really good. I just started using the build a couple days ago. I've been swapping builds for basically since RoS has come out, trying to figure out what's going to be best. This build in particular is running really well with these particular pieces of gear, but there's a lot of testing that I need to do, and well, things are going to be subject to change because I'm always changing my Barb. That's what I'm trying to say, but for now, this is really solid, comfortable sharing it with you. To get into the gear now, we're going to be looking at the IK. I do not feel that IK is mandatory. I want to talk about this first. The mandatory pieces are going to be at least a minimum of 3 pieces of Might of the Earth. If you only have 3, you're going to have the Royal Ring of Grandeur, which is going to come from your Act 1 bounties. If you have 4, you do not need this ring. And then the last mandatory piece is going to be the Lut Socks. Everything else is really just going to help bump you up in torment levels and difficulties. You know, everything else here, it's not mandatory. Those are the mandatory pieces. Now the helmet here is going to be strength, vitality, crit chance, and a socket. Physical resistance for a secondary is very nice. Now if you're going for a protection type of helmet, you would go for strength, vitality, crit chance, and a socket like you see here. You would not want to go for all resistance, because you can only get 750 vitality on your helmet, your amulet, your gloves, and you can never sacrifice any of the stats on your gloves or the amulet. The one time that you could possibly do that is going to well be on the helmet, but that is debatable. I just found this one. Strength, life percent, seismic slam damage, and a socket. I want to reroll the life percent into crit chance. That would be your optimal damage IK helm, and well, optimal helm would be getting vitality over all resist for a tankier helm, because you always need primary, crit, and a socket. Those are mandatory. Those are the 3 that you have to have. The 4th one is kind of debatable. For the shoulders, Spires of the Earth are going to be amazing. Strength, vitality, or all resist. It's not going to matter for this slot. And then you're going to be looking for cooldown reduction and earthquake damage. For secondaries, physical resistance, it's always amazing. It's going to be one of the secondaries that you're really going to be looking for. But the one that you're going to be looking for the most on your shoulders is going to be a little bit of a spoiler here. We're going to be using Bloodthirst. Now, for each point of fury that we spend, we're going to be healing ourselves for 578 life. Healing amount is going to be increased by 1% of your health globe healing bonus. So health globe healing bonus just blew up on the list of secondaries that you're going to be wanting to look for. Now I have no health globe healing bonus on my barbarian at all, and I'm able to run in Torment 6. I can't imagine when I get to the point where I do have a few pieces at least with some health globe healing bonus, and well, I'm able to get like 1,000 for each point of fury that I spent just from this passive here. So things are only looking up for this build. Now for the amulets, you're going to always want fire skills, strength, crit chance, and crit damage. That's my opinion. I haven't tested out with cooldown yet. I don't know if it's worth it to sacrifice like any of those for cooldown. That's just something I have to get that particular amulet that I'm able to roll with the right stats to be able to even compare to this one that I have here. I've been running this one for a long time. I wish the game would just give me a new one, but I can't really complain. Now, there's a bunch of other good amulets that you're going to be looking for. That's just the one that the game gave me. You want those particular primary stats. You don't really need to focus on what legendary that you have. Now for the chest, I still want to test around with like a cinder coat. I want to test around with like og-hilt shoulders and bracers and just everything. There's a lot of things that I do want to test, but if you're going for the IK, you're going to want strength, earthquake damage in 3 sockets, and then for the tank stat, it's going to be vitality, all resist, or it's going to be reduced damage versus elites. I haven't gotten a good enough chest to really test around with reduced damage versus elites. It's a very hard stat to reroll. It's a hard stat to get on your gear in particular. I'll get to that point. It just requires more grinding, more testing. It's pretty much, I don't want to say endless, but you know, Diablo 3, they did say endless replayability, and to some extent, while it's not endless, there are a lot more things that you're able to do at this state in the game versus vanilla. So that's something that's really, really nice. Now for the gloves, pull the earth, strength, crit chance, crit damage, and well, reduced cooldown are going to be the 4 that you're always going to want to get. Physical resistance, something like that on your gloves is also very good. Could pick up some Mage Fists. In that case, though, you would need to be using the Royal Ring of Grandeur. Now, for the bracers, strong arm bracers are going to be really good. These just dropped like 36 hours ago for me. I almost didn't believe it. I haven't re-rolled them yet. Still a little bit in shock, but these are really good because enemies hit by knockbacks or knockups, in this case, are going to suffer 30% more damage for 5 seconds when they land. We're going to be using Seismic Slam with the Fire Rune on their Shattered Ground, and that's going to knock up enemies. And well, we're going to be getting 30% more damage, and that's really only going to knock up the white monsters. There's a few elites, like a few select elites I've noticed do get knocked up by this particular ability, but 95-98% of the elites are not going to be affected by this. But as I said, Seismic Slam is very good for kiting and clearing out the white monsters. It's just going to help you focus your damage elsewhere, and your Call of the Ancients are actually going to be hitting the target you want and not doing whatever they want. Now for some other bracers though, you could go for Reaper's Wraps. Now we're going to be stacking health globe healing bonus. Reaper's Wraps are going to be giving us a certain percentage of fury for every time we pick up a health globe. You're going to be getting a ton of fury. You're going to be getting a ton of life once you get that health globe healing bonus. And well, it's just going to be some great bracers. Also going for the Ancient Pauldrons, I do believe they're called. You stun an enemy, we're going to be using the Leap Rune with Death from Above, which is going to have a 100% chance to stun. Use something like Ancient Pauldrons, which is going to be reduce the damage you take by a certain percentage for every monster that is stunned in a certain radius. So those are also going to be very good for damage mitigation. Belt. If you go for a Mighty Belt, I would get Strength, Vit, All Res, and Life per Fury spent. If you go for something like a Harrington's, one more thing that I really want to test out is not using IK. Try things like Harrington's. There's so many things. Cinder Coat. Now, you're going to want Strength, Vitality, All Resist, and Life percent when you're not using a Mighty Belt. When you are, I would sacrifice the Life percent for the Life per Fury spent. But I don't know. Maybe once the Health Globe healing bonus gets high enough and we're getting total usage out of our Bloodthirster, we may be able to sacrifice that additional fury that we gain from using a Mighty Belt. More testing that needs to be done. Now, Stone of Jordans are not mandatory. They are mandatory for going up in tournament levels. That 15 to 20% fire skills damage that they can roll is really amazing. And you're going to want your primary reduced damage versus elites. And I have been preferring crit chance over cooldown here recently. But, you know, if you really, really need the crit chance, then I probably would not sacrifice it for the cooldown reduction. Secondaries, Maximum Fury is amazing for this particular build. I have 100 to start out with, but with all the gear and the Paragon points, I have 179, so that's going to be an additional Earthquake as well as the Seismic Slam. A lot of Fury that we're going to be able to drop, and that's going to help keep up our survivability. For some other rings, Royal Ring of Grandeur or Unity. Those are like the 3 rings that are reigning supreme. You see a lot of people using them. Those are the 3 that you're going to want to go for. If you go for Unity, I would go for primary, crit, reduce cooldown, and then they have elite damage on there. For these, the Royal Rings, I want strength, crit chance, attack speed, and reduce cooldown of all skills. Pants, Way to the Earth or Hexing Pants, kind of the way to go. I don't have a good pair of Hexing Pants still. I'm not a huge advocate of them. I think they're good for certain situations, but I don't love them for this build, but I'm still going to test them out. I pretty much try to test out as much as I possibly can. Now for your primary roles, you're going to want strength, vit, all res, and 2 sockets. For the secondaries, I would want life after kill and then health globe healing bonus being the optimal 2 for the secondaries. Now the weapons, you don't need these weapons. These are just going to boost your damage quite a bit. Running a Devastator is going to be really good. You're able to craft these once you do find a crafting plan. You farm up the materials. Also, running a Burning Axe of Sandkiss. Now, I'd like to use a Sunkeeper probably in my main hand and a Burning Axe in my offhand, but I just haven't come across a good Burning Axe, and you're able to roll as many Devastators as you possibly could want. I don't really see myself getting a Burning Axe even close to as good as this Devastator, but you know, if it happens, I will then probably just go ahead and move my Sunkeeper over into my main hand and my Burning Axe into my offhand, because, well, you're going to want your higher average damage number, that 1474 to 1995 versus the 1298 to 1706. You always want to look at that. Whichever weapon you're using that has the higher damage number, not damage per second, you want that in your main hand, and that's why I have been running Devastator in my main and, well, the Sunkeeper in my offhand. And for the boots, Let Socks, you always want Let Socks. You have to have these strength, vit, all res, and then instead of movement speed, I want seismic slam damage for sure on the boots. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for the gear. We can go over the details real fast. We have a ton of armor without even running something like our Rampage. We do have Tough as Nails on, though. That's one reason why we have a bunch. But when we stack our Rampage, it is going to synergize very well with our Tough as Nails. And even without our Rampage stacking, we still have a bunch of armor. Now, our all resist is only 552, but you can see that I have over 1,000 physical resistance. That's really what you're going to want to do. You can get away with, like, I mean, pretty much around what I have. I wouldn't want too much less. You probably could get away with, I don't even want to say, but you probably could get away with under 500, but you'd have to be playing very careful, and you would definitely need to make sure that your physical resistance was high enough. If it's not, you're not going to be able to get away with something like only 552, all resist being your lowest. Now, our life per fury spent, due to us having life per fury spent on our belt, having it as a set bonus and using the Bloodthirst passive, we have 1,000 life per fury spent, as well as I am stacking life per hit on my Paragon points. So between the two, survivability, our healing is going to be way up there, and that's what's keeping us alive in Torment 6, is the life per fury spent, is the life per hit. Other than that, I mean, it's not really too much. We do have pretty good tank stats and all that. You need that amount just to survive the burst, but after that, you throw out a few seismic slams, maybe an earthquake, and, well, you heal back up really nice and fast. That's pretty much it for the gear. You can look for a ton of other pieces. Like, you could look for a cinder coat. You could look for, like, the other bracers like I was talking about, Mage Fist and Andes. Definitely a better amulet, various things, but health globe healing bonus, physical resistance are going to be really the ones that you're going to want to focus on for your secondaries for your gear. So I do want to go ahead and go over the rest of the skills, as well as talk about a few various options, because not everyone's gear is going to be in the exact same place that mine is. You know, maybe you're going to have more damage but less survivability. Those are the kind of things that I want to talk about, because you're going to be able to mitigate more damage, or you're going to be able to dish out more damage with the skills that you choose, and that's what I want to talk about. Now, Seismic Slam was Shattered Ground. I started using Strength from the Earth. You know, you can laugh or whatever you want, but you gain 1% of your maximum life for every enemy you hit. You know, I needed a form of healing, is the way I was feeling. I'd been running Max Fury builds for quite a while now, at least a couple weeks, trying various things, trying to make them work, but I realized that Fury is there for a reason. And one thing that I was not thinking about is, if you play Diablo 3 Vanilla, the way to survive an MP10 was, well, with lifesteal. Lifesteal is gone now. Life on hit is good, it's just not lifesteal. So, to compensate for the lifesteal loss, I have been using Shattered Ground, and then I have been stacking. Each point of fury that you spend is going to heal you for 578 life, and then I'm trying to get health globe healing bonus. I'm using the IK set, which also has life per fury spent. I'm using the Mighty Belt from the IK set, which is giving me even a more, and this is what's replacing my lifesteal. Without this, I was really having a lot of troubles with survivability in Torment 6. To me, this is the key that I was personally missing, because I was running Max Fury builds and it just kind of hit me in the face, and there it was. give it a try. You don't have to maybe use Seismic Slam. Maybe Hoda is your more preferred playstyle. I don't think it's personally as good, but you know, you need to try the various things to discover for yourself what's going to fit your gear, what's going to fit your playstyle. Really, that's all there is to it. Now, Leap, Death from Above, I wouldn't use any of the other runes. It's just when you land with such force that all enemies have a 100% chance to be stunned for 3 seconds. This is really the only way that you're able to stand there and leap on the elite pack or whatever the case may be, the 2 or 3 times. Maybe the 3rd time you gotta leap out, but that's what's keeping you alive when you're in the fray. Now, Earthquake with Molten Fury, if you're a Fire Barbarian, there's no real other option. So we just gotta stick with that build or that particular rune on Earthquake. Now, Battle Rage with Marauder's Rage, this is the one skill that I want to talk about that you're really going to be able to replace and put a lot of various things here. Three that I want to talk about. Now, Battle Rage with Marauder's Rage. I like to use this because I do feel like I need to up my damage and I need to be able to burn through the monster faster, not necessarily get to the next monster faster. But I am kind of slow. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit slow, but I do feel like my damage is a little bit low, so that's why I'm choosing to use that rune or that particular skill. Now, Sprint with Marathon. I use this when I'm playing on the lower tournaments, and man, it just feels really good. You're able to cruise through, burn through the elites, but that's what I'm saying. My damage isn't quite up to par. I need to still work on my gear. I need to get better pieces, various things. I'd like to use this, but also if your protection, you feel like you need more survivability, using something like Warcry with Impunity, Warcry with Invigorate. Now this is going to increase your maximum life as well as your regeneration by 8,253 per second. I was also playing around with life regeneration builds. You know, just whatever I could to increase my healing is what I realized I needed to do. Also, something like Threatening Shout is going to be very good. You get the one where they have their attack speed slow and is going to be reduced by 20% for 15 seconds. You know, just really whatever you need in addition, this is what this slot's going to be for. Now, Call of the Ancients, Council Rises, great source of damage, especially while you're using the IK set. I've also played around with Ancient's Fury, gain 3 Fury for every Ancient that deals damage. It's pretty good, but we're not physical. Unfortunately, they don't do really anything other than give you Fury, as well as Together as One. This is pretty interesting as well, because it's going to give you 50% damage mitigation, or the exact same thing that the Unity is doing for you. It's really good. Those are the 3 that I would use, but for this build, I'd only be using Call of the Ancients. Wrath the Berserker with Insanity. Now, the thing about Call of the Ancients is it's snapshots your attack speed. Now, snapshotting attack speed means when I cast my Call of the Ancients, if I were to cast them now, I'd cast them and they don't have the Wrath the Berserker buff. If I were to cast Wrath the Berserker, it gives me 20% additional or 25% additional attack speed, and if I were to now use my Ancients, they would be getting that 25% additional attack speed until they die, or until I cast new Ancients, they're going to get that 25% additional attack speed bonus. So just like right now, Wrath is gone, they're still attacking faster. So that's what the Ancients do. That's one reason why Wrath the Berserker is very good with a Call of the Ancients build. Now, there are things you can do. You could gear swap, and you could, while you're in town, throw on all of your attack speed gear, throw up your Wrath the Berserker, call your Ancients, throw on your regular gear, and then go ahead and farm. I mean, you could do that. That's not what I personally have been doing. I kind of want to try it out one day, but that's just, it's something you could look into. Now, Insanity, whether you choose to use that rune or not, is really whether you need more damage. There's also a rune. Unfortunately, this is on cooldown. I don't know the name of it, but it's going to reduce the damage you take by 50%. So either one of those two is going to be 2 that I would definitely recommend. Now, to get into the passive, Superstition, reduce all non-damage physical damage taken by 20%. My all resist, maybe it's a little bit too low, but when I use Superstition, it's going to compensate for that. I have a ton of physical resistance, so I'm not worried about that, as well as I'm going to have a chance to generate or gain 2 Fury. Now, I have to use this. If you need more damage, you're obviously not going to want to use Superstition. Now, Rampage, it's pretty much mandatory. Increase strength by 1% for 8 seconds after killing or assisting in a kill. You want to be burning through the monsters. You should have your Rampage up a good portion of the time at least. Also, while you are using Tough as Nails, I know I talked about this a little bit, but this is going to increase your armor by 25%. Rampage is going to increase your armor. Well, by it's going to give you an additional 25% armor of whatever strength that you have, as well as while you're using this, it's going to be applying to the tough as nails as well, so that's going to be giving you even more armor. And as I've talked about Bloodthirst quite a bit now, you're going to gain Fury when you spend Fury, and you're going to want to stack Health Globe healing bonus on your gear. I can only imagine when I get to that point how nice it's going to be. Other passives that you could look into, Boon of the Bokathos, I would really like to use it, but I am using IK. I don't need my Ancients out faster. My Earthquake is coming off cooldown pretty quick as well, because our 2-piece Mighty the Earth set bonus is going to reduce the cooldown of Earthquake by 2 seconds for every time it kills an enemy. Boon of the Bokathos is good, especially when you're not using the IK. When you are using the IK, I don't feel like it's as mandatory, and I kind of need these passives right now. It's kind of where my gear is at currently. So the last thing I do want to talk about is going to be the Paragon points. Now for our core points, I like to max out movement speed first. So what you're going to do is 25% is going to be the cap. So you're going to look at what you have on your gear. In our case, we do have 22%. We're getting 11 from the pants and 11 from the boots. Ideally, I'd want all resist here. I would want seismic slam damage here. Ultimately, I wouldn't want to have to run Superstition with this build. If I have to, that's just the way that it's going to be. Maybe it's not the build of choice. You know, I just hope that there's something better out there. That's just really all there is. I just always want there to be something just a little bit better out there. Now, Maximum Fury is really nice because after you've leapt a couple times, you're waiting for your cooldown, and, well, you're just looking for something to do. And while you're looking for something to do, it is going to be using Seismic Slam as well as Earthquake. So you're going to be able to cast an additional Earthquake or a couple extra Seismic Slams. Then from there on out, I will go for Strength. Really, you want to get as much Vitality as you're going to be needing from your gear. Offense, I'll go cooldown reduction first. I know a little earlier on I said on the ring I would go for crit chance over cooldown, but I meant I would go cooldown over crit chance, if at all possible. Unless you're really crit chance starved, you really want the cooldown reduction. You don't want to be doing anything else, but your leap is always going to be on cooldown at some point. You can't eliminate it to nothing. So cooldown is really good. Crit chance next, and then crit hit damage. There will be times where maybe you're going to need the crit hit damage more, but I always find myself being more crit chance starved than crit hit damage starved. Then attack speed. Attack speed's good. It is just the last one that I would go for because our Call of the Ancients is going to be receiving the attack speed buff as well as our Seismic Slam. Defensive, all resist. We're a strength-based character. Going for all resist first is pretty much mandatory. Then from there, I do like to go for more mitigation and not just more vitality or anything like that, or more life percent. Because while we're using our 25% additional armor, as I've said before, we are going to be using Tough as Nails. That's 25% additional armor. This is going to increase our strength by 25%, which is more additional armor. And the three of those working together is just going to make it tanky as all get out. Then I'll go for some life percent and life regen. But honestly, I have been bouncing back and forth between these two. Life percent and life regen, they're both pretty good. Utility, not unity. Utility, life on hit, I feel is slightly better than resource cost reduction, but I really haven't had to test around with it, so you may have to just dump all your points into life on hit, see if that helps you more. If that doesn't, maybe try out resource cost reduction, whichever one's going to be what you need for your gear. Then from there, go area damage, and gold find is just really always there. So I would encourage everyone to try a build similar to this, not this exact same build, you know, just use your imagination, try some different things out. As I just keep saying, there's a lot of things that I do want to test, and I would like to hear what you guys think about this build and what you're going to be changing, what you're going to be testing. If you do some testing and you want to come back and share what exactly happened, I would love to read about things like that as well, because I just always want to be improving my barbarian. That's bottom line. I want to make the most optimal build that I possibly can. That's really all I had for you. I am ChromeOnRust for CoreXpert Gaming. I hope you did enjoy the video. I'm out of here, and you all have a great day.
time.
Your skill has grown.